All right, let's jump right into this explainer. Today, we're unpacking the really intricate mechanics of our nervous system, how it breaks, how it miraculously heals itself, and exactly what happens when it misfires. The human body is incredibly resilient in so many ways, but our internal wiring, it is surprisingly fragile. So we're going to look directly at the evidence to uncover what's literally happening at the cellular level when things go wrong. But before we get into the nitty-gritty details, I want you to keep this fascinating question in mind. The contrast between physical nerve damage and electrical dysfunction is honestly mind-blowing. Think about it. If you slice your finger, you know for a fact it's going to heal. But the wiring deep inside your body operates under completely different, highly specific rules. How is it that some nerves can perfectly rebuild themselves from scratch, while a microscopic chemical imbalance in the brain can spark this massive, sudden electrical chaos? So here's our roadmap for today. Number 1, physical damage and miraculous repair. Number 2, chronic degeneration. And number 3, electrical dysfunction. Starting off with Section 1, physical damage and miraculous repair. Let's look at the mechanics of a nerve injury. Okay, so to build something entirely new, you first have to demolish the ruins, right? Well, in our bodies, this crucial cleanup phase is known as Wallerian degeneration. When a peripheral nerve is crushed or even completely severed, the part of the nerve fiber that gets separated from the cell body doesn't just sit there doing nothing. It actively breaks down. It's this highly coordinated, totally intentional process to clear out the debris so a fresh pathway can be laid down. And it is literally like watching a highly choreographed cellular construction crew. It's definitely not some chaotic mess. Very specific cells rush straight to the site of the damage to orchestrate a sequence of events. The body's biological machinery just wakes up, taking over to pave the way for new growth over the next few weeks. Breaking it down step by step, we first see the initial injury where the axon becomes totally fragmented. Then, immune cells called macrophages rush in. They are essentially the ultimate cleanup crew, rapidly clearing out all that myelin debris and dead tissue. Next, we see something truly amazing. Schwann cells align perfectly to form a protective regeneration tube, and they actually release signals that promote growth. Finally, these tiny, fine axon sprouts grow straight through this tube, eventually regenerating completely with a brand new myelin sheath. It is biological self-repair at its absolute finest. But here is the crucial catch. While our peripheral nerves, the ones in our arms and legs, have this amazing biological repair kit, our central nervous system, meaning the brain and spinal cord, sadly just lacks these tools. In the CNS, those helpful macrophages don't clear the remnants efficiently at all, which leaves debris hanging around for weeks. And instead of forming helpful growth tubes, central glial cells just proliferate and cause glial scarring, which physically blocks the axon from regrowing. It's actually kind of staggering to realize just how helpless our central nervous system neurons are by comparison. Since they lack centrioles, they can't even divide, meaning CNS neurons are generally never replaced, and the axons typically just fail to regenerate. So that glaring limitation in the central nervous system brings us to a pretty stark realization and a really important question about chronic decline. Since the brain can't easily repair its physical wiring, what happens when it faces a slow, relentless, progressive cellular attack? Which brings us to Section 2, chronic degeneration, and specifically, decoding Alzheimer's disease. Now, while the exact trigger for Alzheimer's is incredibly complex, genetic factors, especially the ApoE gene, play a massive role, right alongside systemic health and lifestyle risks over the course of a lifetime. Things like high blood pressure, increased cholesterol, head trauma, and neuroinflammation, they all combine to create this perfect storm for severe neuronal damage in the brain. And because this CNS damage is so incredibly hard to reverse, early detection is absolutely everything. Analyzing cerebral spinal fluid can actually reveal changes in beta amyloid and tau proteins way before symptoms ever show up. Meanwhile, MRI scans let us physically visualize the shrinking of brain tissue over time. Spotting these markers early is a real game changer because it gives us a vital window into the degeneration before major clinical symptoms take hold. To really wrap your head around this kind of degeneration, it's vital to understand just how targeted it is. Specifically, exactly where the cells die dictates exactly how the disease manifests. For instance, Alzheimer's directly destroys the hippocampus, literally ripping away memory and the ability to form new ones, but it typically doesn't cause tremors. Contrast this sharply with another major neurodegenerative disorder like Parkinson's disease. Parkinson's attacks dopaminergic neurons in a totally different area, the basal ganglia, which leads primarily to physical movement disorders, resting tremors, and impaired gait.
Okay, so we've looked at structural failure and this slow, insidious decay. But we need to pivot for a second. We have to ask, what happens when the brain's internal wiring simply shorts out? What if the cells aren't slowly dying over decades, but instead their communication systems just abruptly and violently fire completely out of control?
That takes us to our third and final section, electrical dysfunction, understanding epilepsy and seizures.
I want you to think of your brain as a finely tuned scale. Every single thought and movement relies on a perfect chemical balance. On one side of the scale, you've got glutamate. That's the excitatory neurotransmitter bringing calcium into the cell. On the other side, you have GABA, the inhibitory neurotransmitter, bringing in chloride to calm things back down. Well, in epilepsy, that scale just tips. There's either way too much excitation from glutamate or not nearly enough inhibition from dysfunctional GABA receptors. The result? Neurons become synchronously active. Basically, they all fire at the exact same time in a massive, uncontrolled wave.
When you measure the electrical activity during a generalized tonic-clonic seizure, the intensity is just undeniable. It is an absolute storm of rapid, erratic firing that totally overwhelms the nervous system's standard operating procedures. This massive, chaotic, high-amplitude wave pattern you see on an EEG, that represents the entire brain being completely engulfed in electrical overdrive across both hemispheres.
But contrast that chaotic storm with an absent seizure. The electrical signature here is totally different. It's this highly distinct, surprisingly rhythmic spike and wave pattern. It's still an abnormal synchronous firing across the brain, sure, but it is highly patterned. And because of this specific electrical rhythm, an absent seizure temporarily pauses a person's consciousness. They appear completely spaced out for a moment, but it does this without triggering the huge, violent physical convulsions we were just talking about.
And since these electrical storms hit both hemispheres of the brain, the physical outcomes for patients are incredibly varied, completely based on how those signals manifest in the muscles. We see tonic seizures, where muscles turn totally stiff and flexed. Then there's the exact opposite, atonic seizures, characterized by a sudden, complete loss of muscle tone, causing the person to go totally relaxed and collapse. We also see myoclonic seizures, which cause short, quick muscle twitches. And of course, those absent seizures we just discussed, where the patient briefly loses and then regains consciousness. As we wrap up this explainer, I really want to leave you with a reminder of just how precious and delicate our central nervous system actually is. Because the cells in our brain and spinal cord are generally not replaced once they're lost, we have an incredibly tiny margin for error. The sheer gravity of that simple biological fact is exactly why mapping out the early markers of degeneration and decoding the complex electrical pathways of seizures is some of the most vital scientific work happening right now. And it leaves us with a truly profound thought. If we can eventually hack the healing secrets of our peripheral nerves, if we can actually figure out how to command Schwann cells and macrophages to rebuild damaged tissue in the brain the exact same way they do in our fingertips, could we one day entirely conquer the devastating brain disorders we've explored today? It is a massively exciting frontier of medicine, and it completely changes how we view the incredible, yet fragile machinery inside our own bodies.